Marcus Aurelius, the Emperor Within. Marcus Aurelius Antoninus was not supposed to be an emperor. He never sought the throne, nor dreamed of ruling the world. He was, by all accounts, a quiet, serious young man who preferred books to politics, philosophy to power. And yet, history had other plans. The Reluctant Emperor. Born in the year 121 CE, Marcus grew up in a Rome of splendor and contradiction, a city of marble temples and political intrigue, of public virtue and private corruption. From an early age, he was drawn to philosophy. He studied under teachers who introduced him to Stoicism, a school that taught strength through self-control and virtue over pleasure. He wore simple clothes, slept on a hard bed, and practiced moderation. Even as a boy, he tried to live like a philosopher. When the Emperor Hadrian saw something in him, a mind both brilliant and humble, he arranged for Marcus to be adopted into the imperial family. It was the first step toward destiny. Years later, when Marcus finally became emperor, he carried a heavy burden. He didn't inherit peace. He inherited wars, plagues, and political unrest. He would spend most of his reign not in palaces, but on battlefields, commanding armies on the northern frontiers. And through it all, in the quiet of his tent, by the light of a small oil lamp, he wrote to himself, not speeches, not decrees, but reflections, personal notes, private reminders. These writings would later be known as meditations. The Philosopher King. The idea of a philosopher king goes back to Plato, the dream of a ruler guided by wisdom rather than ambition. Marcus was perhaps the closest history ever came to that ideal. He ruled one of the greatest empires in history, yet he saw himself as a servant, not of his ego, but of reason and duty. He wrote, "A man's worth is no greater than the worth of his ambitions." Marcus's ambition was simple, to live with integrity. He constantly reminded himself that the throne did not make him better than others. Soon, he wrote, "You will have forgotten all things, and all things will have forgotten you." That humility runs through every page of Meditations. It's not a book for the public. It's a collection of private admonitions, a conversation between Marcus and his conscience. He scolds himself, encourages himself, comforts himself. When he feels anger rising, he writes, "When another blames you, or hates you, or people voice similar criticisms, go to their souls, penetrate inside, and see what sort of people they are. You will realize there is no need to be racked with anxiety that they should hold any particular opinion about you." This is the Emperor of the world, reminding himself not to take insults personally. Discipline of the mind. Marcus's world was full of challenges that would test any person's patience. Rebellion at the borders, betrayal in the Senate, sickness in the streets. Yet he wrote again and again that the greatest battles are always within. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. That line, one of his most quoted, captures the essence of Stoicism. Marcus accepted that fate is not negotiable, that what happens, happens, but how we think about it is our domain. To him, philosophy wasn't about escaping difficulty. It was about meeting it with clarity. He believed the mind must be trained like a muscle. Each challenge, each frustration was an opportunity to strengthen reason and temper emotion. In modern terms, we might call this resilience. The Stoics called it virtue. If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it, and this you have the power to revoke at any moment. Marcus wasn't pretending the world was good when it wasn't. He was reminding himself that peace begins with perception. The cosmic perspective. One of Marcus's most striking qualities was his ability to zoom out, to see life from a cosmic point of view. He often reflected on the brevity of existence. Emperors and slaves, heroes and villains, all fade into the same dust. Alexander the Great and his mule driver both died and were buried in the same earth. For Marcus, this wasn't a morbid thought. It was liberating. If all fame and fortune end the same way, then what truly matters is how one lives, not what one gains. He saw himself as a small part of a vast order. He wrote about the stars, the turning of the seasons, the cycles of life and decay. To him, the universe was like a city, and every person a citizen with a role to play. When you feel insignificant, remember, he would say that you're part of something immense. When you feel self-important, remember that you're a speck in an infinite whole. Constantly regard the universe as one living being, having one substance and one soul, and observe how all things refer to one perception, the perception of this one living being. That awareness gave him serenity. The storms of politics, the losses of war, they were part of nature's rhythm. His job was not to control the tide, but to steer his ship with reason. Stoicism in leadership. Marcus Aurelius led by example. He didn't retreat into philosophy as an escape from responsibility. He used it as his compass. He was known for his patience with others, even those who opposed him. When one general plotted against him, Marcus reportedly refused to execute him, saying, "The fault is mine if I cannot make him my friend." This sense of mercy came not from weakness but from understanding. He knew that people act from ignorance, fear, and passion, and that reacting with anger only multiplies suffering. In meditations, he constantly reminds himself, when you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, the people I deal with today will be meddling, ungrateful, arrogant, dishonest, jealous, and surly. They are like this because they cannot tell good from evil. But I have seen the beauty of good and the ugliness of evil, and have recognized that the wrongdoer has a nature related to my own, not of the same blood or birth, but the same mind, and possessing a share of the divine. For Marcus, empathy was not softness, it was wisdom. He understood that we all share the same inner struggle. This mindset helped him stay centered amid chaos. Personal suffering. Despite his power, Marcus's life was filled with pain. He lost several of his children. He ruled during the Antonine Plague, a deadly pandemic that killed millions. He was constantly at war, far from home, surrounded by death and uncertainty. And yet even in his darkest reflections, there's a quiet steadiness. He doesn't complain. He observes. He accepts. Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. While you live, while it is in your power, be good. That's perhaps his greatest lesson, the urgency of virtue. For Marcus, philosophy wasn't an escape from mortality. It was a reminder of it. Each sunrise was a chance to live rightly. Each night, a chance to review his actions. This daily reflection, morning intention, evening examination, became the heartbeat of Stoic practice. It's what modern Stoicism still teaches, to begin and end the day with awareness and gratitude. Modern reflections. What can a 21st century listener learn from a Roman emperor who lived nearly 2,000 years ago? Plenty. Marcus's teachings resonate deeply in a world addicted to control, attention, and comfort. He reminds us that peace doesn't come from having everything go our way. It comes from aligning our expectations with reality. He teaches that leadership, whether over an empire or over oneself, begins with integrity. And he reminds us that humility, the recognition of our limits, is not defeat, but strength. Imagine applying Marcus's mindset in today's context. A CEO handling a corporate crisis without panic. A parent facing uncertainty with calm guidance. A person scrolling through social media and choosing patience over envy. The context changes, but the principles remain timeless. As Marcus himself wrote, the impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. That line has become almost a modern Stoic mantra, the idea that obstacles are not roadblocks, but raw material for growth. When the world tests you, it's not punishing you. It's giving you the chance to practice courage, patience, and perspective. The end of an emperor. Marcus Aurelius died in 180 CE, likely from the plague that had haunted his reign. He was in his late 50s, still leading his armies in the north. When he felt death approaching, he reportedly told his generals not to mourn him, but to continue their duty. He had spent his life preparing for this moment. In Meditations, he had written, "It is not death that a man should fear, but he should fear never beginning to live." He had lived, not in comfort, but in clarity. And that clarity, written in his private notebooks, would survive the fall of the Roman Empire, the rise of new civilizations, and 2,000 years of human change. Legacy. Today, Meditations remains one of the most widely read works of philosophy in the world. It is not a book about power, but about humility. Not about conquering others, but about mastering oneself. It's remarkable that the most powerful man in the world left behind not a monument, but a diary, reminding himself to be kind, patient, and just. Marcus Aurelius teaches us that Stoicism is not a retreat from life. It is a call to live it wisely. He shows that true strength is quiet, that true leadership is compassionate, and that the greatest empire we can rule is the one within ourselves. Waste No more time arguing about what a good man should be. Be one. Marcus Aurelius showed us how Stoicism can guide power. But what happens when power itself becomes temptation? When wealth and influence pull a philosopher toward contradiction? That was the struggle of our next Stoic, a man of letters, luxury, and inner conflict. The dramatist of Rome's moral theater, Lucius Annaeus Seneca.